and let her.
Thank you, Stephen. Young lady, I really liked that. I'm an alcoholic and my name is Stephanie. Hi. Yeah, thanks for asking me to do this. Thanks for everyone who read. Thanks for everyone who's here. And absolutely, if you want to drink or use, stay until after the meeting, right? I always love to speak in Alcoholics Anonymous. I think it's a huge honor. I have a ton to say, so I'm probably going to talk really fast because that's what happens for me. My sobriety date is November 14th, 1992. I've been sober 3 times as long as I drank. I'm sober more than half my life, and I'm still not in danger of getting well anytime soon, right? I have alcoholism, not alcoholism. And my alcohol was but a symptom of my underlying causes and conditions, you know? And tonight I want to just channel God, to tell you the honest to God truth, because when I get in there, it's just a nightmare. But tonight I want to, I believe that when we speak from the podium in Alcoholics Anonymous, my job is to show you and to tell you how I fell in love with God, right? Because this isn't a self-help program, it's a spiritual program. And I know that that can be really hard to think about at first, but I promise that if you just hang on, the hoop is way wider, you know, the hoop is broad. The other thing I like to think about, I used to always say, you know, I believe that when I speak, my job is to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. And especially to disturb the comfortable, because I believe where it says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, therefore, when we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us to do but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. You know, and that's advice to the newcomer. You know, when we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, we pick up those tools. But what that says to me today, as someone in whom the problem has been solved, is that I have a responsibility, an obligation, a duty to bring those tools. And not only to bring the tools and throw them at your feet and let you do whatever you want to do. You know, you take the tool, you do what you want with the tool, but also to approach those people, right? For a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, I would love to sit here and tell you that I've done this all perfect and I am just like spiritually levitating and amazing. Not my reality. And you'll hear all about it, but I do know that there was a time in Alcoholics Anonymous where I thought, if they want me to sponsor them, they need to show me that they're willing. They need to prove that they want it, you know? And I tell you what, I believe God is everywhere and God was there for me and I needed to learn the lessons I needed to learn. But if when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, women had made me prove to them that I wanted this, I might be dead. You know, they didn't. They loved me absolutely unconditionally until I could love myself. They took my hand and they put it in the hand of God. And every time I tried to pull it back, they said, not this time, Steph, just try this our way, you know? And so my job is to tell you what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, and how I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and all this. And I know this is going to come as a big shock. Well, and so many people came. I love everybody who already knows me and still like follows me around. Like I put you all on my first little page so I can see you because you're my people. And, you know, if you don't have a tribe in Alcoholics Anonymous, keep looking, find one. You want to be in my tribe? There's my email. I don't have 31 million people that I send my email to, but it goes to like 150 of us. And we're like really happy. And we send inventory and we send gratitude lists and it's a good time. But my job is to tell you what happened and what it's like now. And for me, you know, I grew up in an alcoholic home. I have been told that this disease is a disease of perception. That has proven true for me. And I know right from the get-go, you know, my dad was an active alcoholic. My mother was an untreated Al-Anon. And so what that looked like at my house was my father would say, Amy, I'm going to the store. And that's drunk speak for I'm going to get wasted. You know, we know this. And my mother, not understanding this disease, would say, take Stephanie with you, because she figured if he took the 10-year-old with him, then he would just go to the store and come home, you know, because she didn't understand this disease. But instead, what it meant was that I ended up down the Irish American, down the Christopher Columbus Club, down the Knights of Columbus. I still know all the phone numbers, you know, I ended up in all those places. And this was long before I ever drank, right? I'm 10 years old at this point. And when I walked into those bars, they were painted maroon and they had sticky floors and they smelled like beer and vomit. I felt like Bill Wilson writes about, I felt like I had arrived. My dad would give me a roll of quarters so that I could play the slot machines or the pinball machines. And I would get to go behind the bar and make my own Shirley Temple. And I had not even drank alcohol yet. And I thought I had arrived, right? Because for me, the alcohol is totally but a symptom. And I have these underlying causes and conditions that I've had my whole life. And what happened was we would show up at home at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. My mother would come to the top of the stairs and she'd be screaming at him, throwing down his dirty shirts and shorts. And, Richard, you can't do this. And she has school and I can't put up with this anymore. And what my alcoholism showed me a shrew at the top of the stairs, a woman who I wanted to be nothing like, and a guy who was just trying to have a good time, a guy who was just trying to, have a good time with his daughter or whatever. My alcoholism prevented me from seeing the truth. I couldn't see that my dad had just driven drunk with me in the car and could have killed us both easily. I couldn't see that my dad had gambled and drank away the mortgage again. And I certainly couldn't see that my father was incapable. Incapable is going to be an important word over the course of my story. Incapable of being there for my mother physically or emotionally. I couldn't see any of it. Because what I saw the outside. And I learned to compare my insides with other people's outsides. And I always came up lacking, right? And so what happened for me the first time I ever drank, and then I will get on to recovery because we don't have time to talk about booze. You know what it's like. I was like a dumpster fire, and my mother had been in Al-Anon for a while, and my mother went to an Al-Anon convention. And so what that meant was she left me home with my drunk dad. And so my dad's just like, here's $20, be home by Sunday. I'm like, make it 25 and we're good. And I went out to see what this whole getting drunk thing was like. And I went to my friend Sharon's house and we took out a blender. I'm Catholic. And so like, we don't get pregnant. We don't talk about our feelings and we don't get caught. Those are our big rules in life. And so we took out this blender and we were adding just a little shot of everything from the liquor cabinet, all the rums, all the schnapps, all the vodkas, all the everythings. Added 2 scoops of Nestle's Quick and mixed it up. Now I know that you all are my people, because when I tell this story, you laugh and you grimace, but you would have drank it too, And I drank that blender full of yum. And I can feel sometimes when I tell this story, I can feel the Nestle's Quick like in my teeth because it doesn't dissolve in alcohol. And so it was this brown liquid with this brown powder on top, and I drank it. And for real alcoholics like me, I believe we have like an alcohol chakra at the core of our being. And when just enough booze hits that chakra, it's like, bam, right? And all of a sudden I look like Cindy Crawford and I can dance like Janet Jackson. There is theme music around me and you either want to be me or you want to be with me, right? And life is good when I have that 2.5 drink kind of thing going on. But the problem is, and what I've learned in this program is that once I put alcohol into my body in any form whatsoever, I develop the phenomenon of craving, which means that I am going to continue to drink until I am physically incapacitated, right? And I could laugh and tell you funny stories, but I'm also going to tell you what that looks like, because I can't afford to kind of romanticize it. And so what that looks like for me is that when I'm out drinking, I make myself puke so that I have more room for booze. What that looks like for me is that at the end of the night, I go around and I pick cigarette butts out of drinks and I drink them. That's what that looks like for me, because I will absolutely drink until I physically cannot get it in my body anymore. That's not social drinking, y'all told me when I got here. And so that night that I drank that blender, I began to have all the consequences that we have. And they continued on and on and on. And it got worse and worse and worse. But like the book said, my alcoholic life seemed the only normal one. I didn't understand that it could be any different. I thought I needed to just make do. I needed to somehow deal with what I had been dealt. And that was it, And so when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, this is going to be another shocker. I came for a dude, of course, right? Dudes are just like booze for this alcoholic. And I came for a dude because I honest to God believed that if he got sober and treated me the way I deserved to be treated, which was like a princess, then I could be okay. I had no idea when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous that I had anything to do with my own happiness. I had no idea that I could do anything other than simply react and accept, and I would date dudes and I would be like, well, yeah, sometimes he cheats on me, but at least he doesn't hit me. Or I'd be like, well, yeah, once in a while he gets mad and he might hit me, but at least he doesn't cheat on me. That was what I thought I was worth. That's what I thought I was worth. And I ran around always doing more, trying to prove to you that I was worthy, right? Because I didn't believe it. And so I always did and still can do more to be enough. In Alcoholics Anonymous, I've learned that that's one of the lies that this disease has told me. This disease has told me that, Stephanie, you're not enough on your own. You need to do, you need to be, you need to get, you need to whatever more, and there's never enough of anything because I always need more. You will never love me enough. I will never make enough money. I will never do enough because all I do is look for it out here. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had a God-sized hole in my heart, in my soul. And I tried to fill it with bottles. I tried to fill it with boys. I tried to fill it with girls. I tried to fill it with pound cake and working out and buying things and having sex and doing virtually anything to stay busy because I couldn't stand myself, So I came into Alcoholics Anonymous with this dude, and this is where obviously God has been there all along, but God was there really big and really loud because I don't think I ever would have came to Alcoholics Anonymous for myself. And my higher power knew that, so my higher power brought me in here with a dude thinking that somehow if I got him sober, I'd be okay. And what that meant was I had just enough codependence to be useful. And so what that meant was I was reading that big book. I'm highlighting it. I'm sitting there, right? We're in the meeting and I'm that girl. I'm draped all over him because I know how you women are. I know how alcoholic women are. You're not getting my man. Doesn't have a job or a car or very many teeth, but damn it, he's mine. Back off. So I'm there with my guy, and I'm saying to him, sweetheart, he should be your sponsor, honey. You have those same kind of issues. Baby, you have that same character defect. And honey, this is what you owe me amends for, right? I was just trying to be helpful, just trying to be of service. And eventually he told me to get lost, and I kept, this is how sick I was or how great God was. I kept going to the bar and trying to tell him what he needed to do to get sober, but what that meant was I was in the book. And I was listening in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was starting to want it. I was starting to believe that it was a way of life that might be decent, but I wasn't quite an alcoholic, don't you know? I was only 23 years old. I was in community college. I'm fine. I was such a mess. And so God saw fit to have me go out, and I've been listening to the women in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thought, ew, if I was ever that gross, I'd get sober too. Oh, if I was ever that skanky, I would certainly call on God as well, but I'm not like them. I was self-righteous. I was arrogant. I was terrified. I was terrified. And so I went back out, I relapsed. And on the night that I relapsed, I did a whole bunch of the things that I had heard women in Alcoholics Anonymous do, and things I swore I would never do, And I came out of a blackout on the payphone at a strip club because I had been thrown out or physically ejected from a strip club for getting on stage with the male dancer because we had that 2-drink eye contact where I thought he was my soulmate, but I was mistaken. And so I had been physically ejected from the strip club, and I came out of a blackout on the payphone with my mother. And like many of us, I have a very complicated relationship with my mother. Well, I did then, especially. And my mother, every time I'd come home drunk, my mother would come to the top of those stairs and she'd look down the stairs and she'd look at me and her face would drop. Stephanie, when are you going to do something with your life? Stephanie, when are you going to live up to your potential? Stephanie, when are you going to get a job? Stephanie, how much is this going to cost me now? All I heard from my mother was disappointment, disgust, and hatred. Alcoholism prevented me from seeing the truth. Because the truth was, my mother was afraid that her 23-year-old daughter was going to die. And my mother didn't know how to deal with this disease any different either, you know? And so when I came out of the payphone that night, when I came out of the blackout rather, on the payphone with my mother, I was at the jumping off point that the big book talks about. And I believe my mother never kept her mouth shut. I mean, obviously I inherited this from someone, right? But my mother never kept her mouth shut, never didn't tell me what she thought about my conduct, my behavior, my appearance, my comrades, always had something to say. And that night I called my mother and I said, Ma, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't stop drinking. Everybody leaves. Why does no one love me? Why aren't I enough? You know? And that night, all she said to me was, honey, don't drive. Come home and it'll be okay. My mother's never not said anything. I believe that if she had said one thing to me, I think I'd be dead. I think I'd be dead. And I know, like, I still get goosebumps. This story still makes me want to cry because I know God was there. I know God was there because only God could keep my mother's mouth shut, right? So I went home and I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous and I came for myself, you know, and I did come to believe that I was powerless over alcohol and it made my life unmanageable. That was pretty clear, even though obviously for a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't think my life was unmanageable. I thought you all were mistaken. You didn't treat me the way I should be treated. You know, everybody should take my advice more often, but I was willing to kind of go along with you all. I still was holding out, right? Like it says it somewhere in the literature that whenever we find a person, place, or thing unacceptable, it's a spiritual axiom. There's something wrong with us. I was looking, I was waiting. I mean, I was waiting until I was like 20, 25 years sober to find that one time when it's not me. It's not me, you know, it's always me. It's always me. And there's such freedom in knowing that, right? So I came to believe that I was powerless over alcohol and it makes my life unmanageable. But then y'all told me I had to come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Now, I had no idea what sanity was, grew up in the alcoholic home, Christmas trees getting thrown out the window. You know, we had a lot of insanity going on. We put the fun in dysfunctional. And I also was raised Catholic, right? My mother had been a nun, for the love of God. So I had this God who had a clipboard, you know, white dude in the sky with a clipboard with all the 7 deadly sins on it. And I was checking them all off. Like I was not doing well in the God, you know, the God of my understanding. And I didn't like that, you know, and my sponsor told me that I could choose any conception of God that I wanted, G-O-D. And at first G-O-D was a group of drunks because you all had what I wanted. There were women at my home group that would sit up the front and they were all like in these matchy clothes and they were showering well above my pay grade at this point. And they would say to me, Stephanie, come sit with us. And they didn't want anything from me. You know, they were just nice. I'm like, what? There was this old guy, George, at my home group. And every time I would walk into the meeting, George would say to me, here comes the prettiest little girl in AA. You know, and this is when I'm wearing the same Notre Dame sweatshirt and the same green sweatpants every day. And I'm wiping snot on my sweatshirt sleeve because I'm a crying mess. I don't feel pretty. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel like I fit. I don't know what I want to do. I just want to punch someone in the throat, but I know I can't drink. I am terrified to drink because when I drink, I hurt everyone around me. And I don't, like, I'm starting at this point in AA to like see that you all are just being nice. And like, maybe I can do this and maybe I won't disappoint you, but I didn't want to. And so George would say, here comes the prettiest little girl in AA. And it would kill me every time. And it would make my heart sore to believe that anyone could think that I was pretty, you know? And so I kept coming and she told me I could choose any conception of God that I wanted. And like I said, I was in that kind of half in, half out place. And I was starting to take suggestions and I was doing what y'all said. I was the chip girl. Long time in early sobriety, because look at my sponsees are like, don't tell this story. Because what would happen was I would give out the chips to the little boys that were cute, you know, because by now I'm 7 or 8 months sober. I've got this. I've got this. And I would give them their chip and give them a hug, of course. And I'd also give them my phone number in case they needed a ride to a meeting or if they wanted to talk about the big book. And I swear to God, like I laugh about it now because I can see it. But like, I really did think, and I kind of was being of service in Alcoholics Anonymous. Like I lost interest in selfish things and I gained interest in my AA fellows, like one fellow at a time. But my sponsor told me, as long as you don't put anything before your sobriety, Stephanie, it's going to be okay. And so I had to come to believe that this power greater than myself would restore me to sanity. And she told me to write down all my characteristics, all the characteristics of my higher power. I could pick my own. And she was a Christian woman. And like I said, I had this Catholic mother. And so when I went to her and told her that my higher power was a lesbian cheerleader. And I told her that because what I wanted her to say, no, honey, you can't do that here. We don't do that. That's wrong, right? No, you're wrong. Because that's what I'm used to. That's what I know how to handle. I can handle rejection, crisis, drama, and chaos. I am a queen of that. You give me peace, serenity, and love. Icky, yuck. Like, I don't know what to do with that, right? And so I told her, I said, my higher power is a lesbian cheerleader. She said, great. Pray to her every morning and every night. Next, we launched on a course of vigorous action. I'm like, what? Hold on. Peace out. Time out. This is not what I was looking for here, right? And when I think about my higher power, I want to tell you about my higher power. Because I believe that, and I do this with the people that I am lucky enough to sponsor, that when we get to this part, we write out all the characteristics of our higher power, because I believe how we see our higher power is how God sees us. Right. And so when I wrote out the characteristics of my higher power, she was absolutely #Team Stephanie. She's a lesbian cheerleader. She's kind of hot. She's kind of fun. I could totally talk to her. I could develop a relationship with her like a friend, like the book tells me to. Right. She absolutely wants the best for me. And she is all about me. And the thing is with cheerleaders are on the sideline. And if my job today is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and those about me, if my job is to be spiritually fit so that when God says, Stephanie, you're in, I need to be spiritually sound. I can't be worried about my ego. I can't think about, is Blair going to be mad at me if I say this to her? I can't. I got to speak God's truth. I got to speak this program. I can't speak what I think. Right? I got to be what's in my heart. And so if I'm going to be that, I need to practice. I need to be spiritually fit. I need to practice prayer. I need to practice meditation. I need to practice gratitude. I need to practice self-reflection. And it's all practice because we never get perfect. I get all fired up about this because we don't get perfect. The highest we get is human. And I am so remarkably human and ridiculously perfect in my imperfection and so psyched that God uses me to show you it's not going to be pretty all the time, right? I was 20 years sober and I walked in on my boyfriend shooting up in my bathroom, right? A guy that I started dating who had been with a sponsee of mine who I somehow rationalized and justified that I could do that because she said it was okay. When I knew in my heart, that is not the woman God intends me to be. So no, I haven't gotten perfect, but what I have gotten is willing, right? And so when that all went down with that dude, what did I do? I called my sponsor, because another thing that I had done for a long time in this program was I would get into little scrapes, or I would have tussles, and I would have spiritual disturbances at work, or, relationships and finances, I just can't. Right? I can, because today I invite God in, because today I honor my highest self. And today I am not afraid of the glory that God wants for me. It gives me chills just to say it. But romances and finances. And when I first got sober, I would get into all these little scrapes and I would do all these little things, and then what I would do is I would hit a meeting. I would start calling people. I'd start journaling again. I'd start praying, and then I'd call my sponsor and I'd say, oh yeah, I was having this thing, I was dating this guy, or I was, I did this thing at work, or, oh my God, my finances, I went a little crazy shopping, but don't worry. I've been praying. I've been meditating. I'm working with my sponsees again. I'm getting right back on the beam. I was off it, but I'm back. It's good. because I was still afraid. I was still afraid that if I let my sponsor into that process as it unfolded, we would find that thing that makes me unlovable. She would identify, oh yeah, I was right. You are bad. You know, that was my fear. I don't have that fear today. Today, I can let her, I can let you, I can let, well, except when, you know, I also have standards of appropriateness today. Yay. But I can let people into my process because I'm not afraid what you see about me. It might make me uncomfortable. I might owe amends. I might need to change. I might need to surrender more. Invariably, I will because I'm not dead yet, right? So I got to surrender more. There's still ego and fear all around me. But I could learn how to be with her, you know, because I couldn't let go of that relationship immediately. You know, it took me 9 years to repair the relationship with my sponsee, but that is the power of this program. That is the power of God, because no matter what I do, no matter what I think, God is bigger. God is so much bigger. And so that little lesbian cheerleader of mine, I talk to her all the time. I'm always like, oh my God, thanks for the green light. Oh my God, thanks for the parking spot. Oh, what a great salad we're having today. Oh, do you think I'd look cute in those pants? All the time I'm talking to God, right? About ridiculous things because I need to. I don't know why, because it makes me happy, right? And so then I had to make a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God. And my sponsor, my very first sponsor, she insisted, or she suggested, right? She suggested, because these are but suggestions. Although I would suggest if you want to be sober, you give them a shot, right? Because if you want what I have, you got to do what I do, right? Like you'll find your own path. And I love this. I love this, right? Alcoholics Anonymous is my solution. There is a solution. It's in the first 164 pages of the big book, black words, white page, doesn't need interpreting by me. Y'all numbered the steps because crazy, clever intellectuals like me, we want to do the steps in a different order. We might want to rearrange them. We might take out a couple words, you know? No, 12 steps in order with a sponsor. When the book tells me to do something, I do it. And so when I had to make a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand her, I needed to think about what exactly that meant. And my first sponsor suggested that I make my bed every day, right? And I've made my bed every day for over 29 years. Even when I go to a hotel, I make my bed just because. Sometimes it's a little messy, I'm not going to lie, but I make my bed because today I am a woman of dignity and grace, deliberateness and intentionality when it comes to beds and my sex conduct. And that's only because I've gone through 4 and 5 and I know what my sex conduct and my ideals are, right? Today, I'm not afraid to talk about it. Today, I date people for like seriously long times before we get physically intimate because I had it backwards, right? I thought that I needed to be physically intimate with you so that you would come to emotionally support me and spiritually appreciate me. It's the other way around. I need to feel spiritually connected to you. I need to know that you're emotionally available. I want to be emotionally generous with you. And then maybe we can make out, you know, we'll see. We'll see. What? When I used to go on dates, I brought my toothbrush just in case it was a keeper. I needed to move in, right? You got to get in on that while it's hot. And now today I'm like, no, although I'm a little crazy. My sponsor knows, but anyway. So I had to make a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand her. And so part of that is the very first thing I do is I make my bed. And then I get down on my knees, right? And I get down on my knees today, not because I need to humble myself in front of God, although I could use humility, right? I get down on my knees because I want to remember that every single thing I have is but for the grace of God, that I have absolutely been blessed beyond my wildest dreams. I have kept journals since I first got sober. I was reading some of my journals from 1994, right? And I was writing, am I ever going to be anything? I wonder what I'll do with my life. I hope God has a good plan. Spoiler alert, I'm a tenured full professor at a liberal arts college. I have a PhD. I have a fabulous relationship with my ex-husband, and we co-parent my kids so well. I have 2 boys that are emotionally and spiritually open to the world. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am everything I never thought I wanted to be because of Alcoholics Anonymous. What? Am I going to be anything? Oh God, you know, I so shortchanged myself with the things I thought I wanted. So I make that decision. So when I get down on my knees, I get down on my knees when I brush my teeth, right? And this makes sense for me because I brush my teeth before I go see people, which is exactly when I need God. And I brush my teeth in the morning and at night, thanks to the gifts of sobriety. So I brush my teeth and I get down on my knees, and I've got this whole meditation wall. All my girls have seen it, right? I've got this whole wall down at knee level where I put all those things that we get off the Instagram, right? Don't look back. You're not going that way. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. God loves you. Got God, all these things. People make them for me. I make them for them. I put them on my wall. But here's another miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So I had on my mirror, because of that dude that I dated after I got divorced, I had on my mirror for a long time, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Because my problem is I couldn't, right? I couldn't. I was afraid. I was too afraid to speak my truth. I didn't even know what it was. And that's a combination of alcoholism and trauma, which, we seek outside help. I had that on my mirror for a really long time, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I took it down because today I can speak my truth, even when my voice shakes. What? Like I have a higher thing there now, right? Now it's about me living my authentic self, me not settling, me pushing out of my comfort zone for God. Because it's not for me, because happiness is the byproduct of service. I can't try to be happy. I'll never be happy. But if I try to be of service, I'm always happy. Like what? It just doesn't make sense, but it makes total perfect sense. Okay. So next we launched, oh God, what time is it? 43. Okay. So next we launched on a course of vigorous action. So I'm just going to talk quickly about the steps, right? 4, 5, 6, and 7. What I like to talk about 4 all the time, right? Because it says resentment is the number 1 offender in that first list that we make. And for me, and for a lot of the people that I sponsor, I wasn't resentful when I got here, right? I didn't think I was angry at all. Of course, my boyfriends cheated on me. I was too fat. Of course, my bosses fired me. I was too stupid. Of course, my parents were mean to me. I was unlovable. I was so mired in self-pity and self-loathing, I couldn't see that it was resentment. And so one of my first sponsors told me that she wanted me to put down every time I felt dis-ease, every time I felt uncomfortable, every time I didn't feel okay with the world. Because if my purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service, I need anyone at any time to be able to walk up to me and say, I need help. Can you help me? And I want to say, yes, I can. Right. And that means if Anna walks into the meeting and she's got her cute little white capris on and I'm all jealous because she looks so cute in her little capris, right? I might not necessarily be resentful. Like if I thought to myself, am I resentful? No, I love her. Right. But I have a spiritual disturbance. And that book tells me exactly how to write it out, right? The book is not ambiguous. God is not ambiguous, people, right? And so the book tells me I write it out. Why am I resentful? Because she looks so good. What does it affect? My self-esteem, my sex relations, my personal relations, my ambition. It affects everything because I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. My mistakes, not my part, right? Because we remove the word blame from our speech. What is my mistake? My mistake is I have the misbelief that somehow if I'm not physically attractive, I have less worth. I have the misbelief that there is a limited amount of attractiveness in the world. And if Anna looks attractive, I look less attractive. I have the misbelief that my pants have anything to do with my value, right? And when I know that, I can give that to God. And once I write it, once I say it to my sponsor, usually while I'm blubbering, crying, but once I say it to her, it loses the power. And then I could just be like, yeah, I can't wear white capris because I got too much junk in my trunk. But you rock them, sister, because there are enough capris in the world for everyone to be happy. And I'm so sick of competition. It is not a competition, right? It is not a comparison. There is enough. So I write down now wherever I feel any type of dis-ease, because oftentimes I will feel dis-ease. I just know I feel a little kind of some way. I come home from work and I'm like, I feel a little something about him. And I need to write it out because I want to nip it in the bud. I want to give it to God. And here's the great part about 6 and 7, right? 6 and 7 does not say, contrary to what I believed for a good 10 or 15 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, that we then work on our defects of character. It doesn't say that. What it says is we humbly ask God to remove them. You know what I'm not? God. You know what I can't do? Remove them. You know who can? God, right? So I humbly ask God and I trust, right? I lean into the fact that if I humbly ask God in my morning prayer to remove all the defects of character that stand in the way of my usefulness, which also, as a little side caveat, means that I get to keep all the defects that are useful for you all to see. So when I am a hot mess on fire, it's just for y'all. Not really, but rationalization and justification are mighty forces in my life. But so I ask God to remove the defects of character. And God does. God removes them. See, this is the other thing that I learned in 6 and 7 is that every single instinct I have is a gift from God. My desire to be with someone, to have companionship, to be appreciated, to be proud of the work that I do, to be acknowledged, to have companionship, to have friends. All of those things are God-given, all of it. It is only the degree that my fear and my ego get in there and make me demand more than my share, more than what God needs me to have, that it becomes a defect of character. My only problem is that I get out of whack. I get out of alignment. It is all good. It is all of God. My only job is to stay with God, to not be a curly, bendy straw, to be a straight straw for God, for all the suckers that need the stuff in the glass, right? Like, I just want to be a straight straw, a straight shot to God. And so I have to remember that too, right? And so 6 and 7 is where I do that. And 5 is the whole thing, but I don't have time for that because I want to tell you about amends. I don't know why I feel compelled to tell you about amends, but I do. So that's what we're going to do. When we get to amends, right? Like, of course, immediately I wanted to go to all my ex-boyfriends and apologize for breaking their hearts and all this kind of stuff. Thankfully, I had a sponsor who's like, yeah, no. I really did. But you know, like, see, here's the thing too, right? Because if I believe that I know that God is always there and God protects us and God only shows me what I am able to see at any given moment, right? And so when I wanted to go make those amends, I couldn't see how selfish my behavior was. I couldn't see the way that I continued to demand that people who were incapable of things be what I wanted them to be. I couldn't see that. If I had, I don't think I would have stayed sober. God shows me what I can see when I'm ready to see it. And I have been blessed in this program with sponsorship who allows me to have my process. Because like I said before, there is a solution, right? Alcoholics Anonymous is my solution, but only God has my answers. So when I walked in on that guy at 20 years sober shooting up in my bathroom, I know there's a solution. There's a solution for me to get closer to God. Right? There's a solution for me to trust God. There's a solution for me to trust God, clean house, work with others. And that's what I did. And as a result, my answer eventually was able to be actualized because I don't always have the courage to speak my truth. I don't always have the faith that it'll be okay. But I have you all. And every day I would call my sponsor because I allowed her into that process, even though I felt so broken. I was 20 years sober and look what I was doing. What kind of AA was I? People were gossiping about me, talking about me, saying I was drinking from the podium. I was a mess. And my sponsor would say, we walk into Alcoholics Anonymous with our head held high because today we are women of dignity and grace. And I would call her and I would say, he's still here and I can't kick him out. And I let him back in and blah, 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 blah. And she's, honey, you write, you pray. You work with your girls. You are one step closer to being the woman God intends you to be. And today I can tell you, because after I got sober, I married a really great guy in Alcoholics Anonymous. We got divorced, blah, blah, blah. But he never would have cheated. He never would have lied. He didn't drive me crazy, right? I didn't have that obsession. I didn't have the disease of alcoholism transfer onto a person with him. And I could tell you today that I can see that that relationship that I was in is absolutely one of the most useful things that I have today, because I can't tell you the number of women I have been able to help because of that. Are you kidding me? I will sit up here all day long and tell you, yeah, I was promiscuous. Yeah, I screwed people over. Yeah, I had a guy shooting up in my bathroom when I was 20 years sober. I stayed with God. I stayed with AA. And today I am a woman of dignity, grace, and no regrets. And if I can do that, and it gives one woman or man, like I'm down for you dudes too, but not nearly as much as I used to be. If that gives one woman the courage to stay for one more day, I will do it all day, because people die. And today I have a responsibility to approach those who are broken and comfort them until they can feel the comfort of God. I believe that with all my heart and soul. And so in terms of amends, right, I wanted to do all the boys. I couldn't. But I'm going to tell you about my dad. I have no idea where this is coming from, but here we go. So I'm a professor now, right? I'm a professor, a freaking professor with a PhD, right? I go into this classroom and teach these students. And all I can think of is if you only knew me 30 years ago, we'd be having a different conversation, right? But whatever. And every 7th year, when you're a professor, you get a sabbatical, which means they pay you to take time off. It is a gig. If like, go back to school, all y'all, just go back to school. And so I was going on sabbatical. This was back in 2006. And I'm going on sabbatical. So I have all these great plans for what I'm going to do. And, you know, I'm going to travel. It's going to be time for me. And I'm going to find myself and blah, 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 blah. Right. And I had me, you know, and God, of course, has a bigger plan. And that November, I was going on sabbatical in January. That November, my dad called and he told me, the dad who used to bring me to all of those bars, the dad who never told me he loved me, you know, the dad who was just, we watched Columbo and that was bonding. He called me and he told me that his cancer was back, right? And that all he wanted was to come home. And my mother's 4'10" and my father was 6'2". And so he was literally falling down on top of her and she couldn't take care of him. And here I am on sabbatical, right? And he says, all I want to do is come home. And I said, all right. And I moved home, right? And Alcoholics Anonymous, what Alcoholics Anonymous did was it gave me the ability. The first thing I remember was that I was standing at the kitchen sink and I was doing my dishes and I called my sponsor and I said, my dad's cancer's back. And she said to me, I want you to write and I want you to pray and I want you to think about if there's anything you need to say to your dad, because now's the time to say it. And so I went and I wrote and I prayed and there was nothing that I needed to say to my dad. Because for 25 years, you all taught me how to be the daughter that I always wanted to be and the daughter that my dad always needed, you know, like what? And so then I moved home and I took care of my dad as he died, you know, and it was amazing. It was something I thought, you know, it's one of those things I thought, oh, I could never do that. I'd lose my mind. I didn't lose my mind. I absolutely positively was in a perfectly protected space of being of service. I came home one night with a pizza from my mother. I think it was pepperoni. And I gave her the pizza. I'm like, Ma, here's some pizza. And she opened it up. I don't eat pepperoni. It gives me heartburn. Blah, blah, blah. Totally flipped her shit on me, right? Oops, sorry about the swear word. Totally flipped her mind, like totally screaming at me. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the ability to see that it wasn't about the pizza. My mother wasn't mad about the pizza. My mother was afraid because her partner of 50 years was dying. My mother had never been alone. You know? And so in that moment, I didn't have to be defensive. I didn't have to tell her all I was doing. I didn't have to tell her my heart was breaking too because my dad was dying. I didn't have to do any of that. I just said, do you want me to go get another pizza? You know, like that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. It has given me the ability to know I don't have to be the center of attention. And when I'm not, God does magical things, magical. And that was absolutely probably one of the best experiences of my life was taking care of my dad. It was unbelievable. And my mom. So I have like 2 more minutes. So I'm going to tell you about 10, 11, and 12 in like 25 seconds. Because 10, 11, and 12, they say are the maintenance steps. And I think they're super important. And George, my ex-husband is calling me right now, the second. I'm going to mute him. Sorry about that. But 10, 11, and 12 is really important. And 10 and 11, I believe, and the pandemic, I've doubled down on 10 and 11, man. So today, my little email list, what I send out is I send out the writing every day on page 86, right? Because the page 86 is really, again, really super clear. It tells me what to do. It says, before we begin, we ask that our thinking be divorced of self-pity, self-seeking motives, and dishonest motives. I write that out today because when I put pen to paper, God is in the ink. And I write that out. And then I also write, what do I want to replace it with? So I want to replace self-pity with courage. I want to replace self-seeking motives with service. I want to replace dishonest motives with authenticity and faith in God. And I write that out. And then I consider my day because I need to think about, where do I need extra prayer? Where do I need to bring a snack? What's going on with my life? I don't want to be frazzled today. And today I write out my prayers to God and I send them to a bunch of other people. And I got a bunch of other people who send them to me. And if you want to double down on your recovery, man, you look at the way other people talk to their God. It is awe-inspiring and humbling. It's amazing, amazing. And so I do that. Because today when I was out drinking and I was drinking vodka, if you had rum, I would drink your rum. I wouldn't say, oh, no, Robert, I'm happy with my vodka. You just you go have your little rum. No, I drank it all. I wanted it all. I was a selfish pig when it came to booze and drugs, men and pound cake, shoes and sex, all of it. Today, I want to be that greedy with spiritual principles and practices, because 29 years sober, I can think to myself, oh, I know what works for me. And I do know what works for me. I know I prefer silent meditation. I know that journaling works for me, but you know what? You might do something different that works better for me, or you might do something that works different for me, that I can have a new experience, a different experience, grow even more with God. Why would I not be down for that? I'm down for that. Right? Okay. So I do that. And then at 3:00, I have a little alarm set on my phone that says, check in with the universe. Right. And so at 3:00, because 3:00 is when I start to get cranky, I get a little hangry. I got to deal with dinner. I got laundry. I feel like I didn't get enough done. Right. So 3:00 is a perfect time for me to check in with God. And I do that written inventory. Where was I selfish, dishonest, fearful, afraid? Those aren't the 4. There's another one, self-seeking. Right. How was I kind and loving? And like, I have a whole different sheet we've evolved over the time. Right. And I have to write down, how was I kind and loving? Like, what did I do for other people? Right. Because I can tell you my spiritual condition based on whether or not I'm picking up my phone. Right. If I'm walking the dog and I'm all like, come on, where do I have to be? I don't have to be anywhere. The dog wants to sniff. I can tell I'm spiritually fit if I let the dog sniff. Like, stuff that simple. Am I in this moment? Right? So where was I kind and loving? And where was I kind and loving to myself? Because probably one of the biggest things that Alcoholics Anonymous taught me is that I am enough, and that I have to believe that. And the journey that it takes for me to go from my head to my heart, in terms of the fact that, like, I know today that I am enough. And not only do I know it, like, I knew it for a long time on paper. I know on paper I'm enough. Today I feel it. Today, when I feel that gratitude, right? Like, when things happen in my life today, I don't cry often because I'm sad. I cry because of the amazing outpouring of love and support that I get from people. And every time I do that, my heart cracks. And I believe that when God cracks open our heart like that, it's just to make it bigger. Because God is limitless, and there is an abundant amount of love and serenity and peace and sobriety and success, all of it. I don't know. So I have to shut up. So as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous, obviously I have a life that's freaking second to none, and I'm not unique. Anyone can have it. It is available for everyone, and anyone can have it. I go totally crazy about this because it's like, just do what's in the book. Just do what's in the book. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I am so grateful for everyone that is here, and for people who continue to stay sober, because we walk on this path shoulder to freaking shoulder. And then I'll tell you one final story, because that's how I am. That guy, George, who used to say to me, here comes the prettiest girl in AA, right? When I went home, I went to Kansas to get my PhD. My ex-husband obviously followed me there because he loved me. We came home. We were getting married in Massachusetts. We went to a meeting. He's in the program too. He's 4 months less sober than me, though, so I'm never going to drink. But we went to a meeting the night before our wedding, right? His father's in the program, all the bridesmaids and groomsmen. So everybody's in the program. So we go to a meeting the night before the wedding. We walk into this meeting in Woburn, Massachusetts, and George is chairing the meeting, right? And so I go up to George and I'm like, George, hey, it's so good to see you. And I'm getting my PhD. I'm getting married tomorrow. How's your wife? Hug, hug, love, love, kiss, kiss, mwah, mwah. I go sit down, and in walks a new girl, because you can see them. They're shuffling and they've got those same clothes on and they can't look up. In she shuffles. And George says, here comes the prettiest little girl in AA. You know, that's Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's a miracle because I didn't need to be the prettiest little girl in AA anymore. I don't need to be the prettiest little girl in AA. And because of people like George, people who keep showing up, people who keep loving us unconditionally until we can learn to love ourselves, if I can give back half of what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, I will be doing this every day, all day for the rest of my life. And I pray that it's true. So thank you very much. Don't drink today. Mwah.